Checkboxes are great when you want a check all that apply option. So if I want to give a visitor a multiple choice question like, tell me all of the topics that you are interested in, then you want a checkbox. Again, you simply place your cursor where you want the checkbox and click on the checkbox button. And again, once you get the settings the way you want, so in this case, I might call this topic. So I'm giving my checkbox the name topic so that I can keep track of what this is about. This is the topic section. And the checked value this time, I'm going to specify based on what that value is. So using an abbreviation to keep this simple, I'm just going to write albums. Now I can insert another one from the insert bar, or I can copy and paste this one. So let's just use copy and paste. With checkboxes, the topic can be the same or different. Users will be able to check multiple checkboxes either way. So you can name your checkboxes distinctly if you want to be able to target them separately, or the same if they all apply to the same thing. For now, I'm going to let Dreamweaver give them a separate name each time. In this case, it's adding the number 2, but I'm going to change the checked value in each case. This time I'll call it websites. And clicking to get my cursor just where I want it. Sometimes you have to click a couple of times in Dreamweaver to get your intention across. And I'll paste. Again, selecting that radio button reveals the properties. Dreamweaver's named it Topic 3, and this one I'm going to call Scrapbooks. And finally, again, clicking carefully to get my cursor just where I want it. Sometimes if you're having trouble selecting just what you want like this, especially if you're right at the edge of a div tag or a form element like this, you can place your cursor anywhere in the word and use the arrow key to move it to the left exactly where you want it. And now again, I can use the checkbox button to add it, or I could have pasted it in there. So being consistent, I would call this topic 4, genealogy. Now the checked value is important because if you're using something like a simple form mail script, which is what I'm going to show you how to do at the end of this, when you get that email back with these results, that checked value is going to be included, and that's how you're going to know what the user actually checked. If you're entering this information into a database, you may have to be very specific about these values to make sure they correspond to the database values. And finally, we already have our comments in place, but at the very bottom of this, I'm just putting my cursor at the very end and hitting the return key, I want to add a submit button. After all, what good is a form if you can't actually submit the information once you fill it in? The submit button is right up here. It's the blank looking button in the form's insert bar. Again, simply click to select it. And in this case, when you change the value, let's make this say subscribe. You see whatever you type in the value actually changes what appears on the submit button. If you want to include a reset button, you can add another button next to this and select the reset form button to designate this as a reset button instead of a submit button. As a general rule, I find reset buttons a little confusing in user interface, unless it's a really complex form and there's a reason you would want people to be able to clear the form and start over. I prefer to just leave it at a submit button, because most users know that if they just close out of the browser or move on to a different page without clicking the submit button, their information won't be submitted. And it's so easy to hit the reset button by accident and undo everything you've entered into a form that I hate to even set my visitors up with that risk.